monthly trading recap for the month of March 2022. Quite the journey. Once again, still getting after it. To Christ be the glory, as always. We're going to stare at the SPY chart here for a little backdrop as we get into some other journaling notes. I do, again, just as reference for me, I do like to keep these monthly recaps as more of a outward perspective or higher perspective on the overall sideline of my trading career versus how myopic the daily trading reviews can get for the benefit that those provide specifically for that. So using these as more of just kind of a broad or generalized view of what happened during the month, of where we're at, and where we're potentially looking to take this in the next few months and the next few years of this trading career. So the calendar off of TraderSync is kind of screwy with all the futures and how that's intermixed with there. So we're just going to look at SPY chart for that. I wanted to start off with my first journal note of talking about I'm coming up on like 200 daily trading recap videos, which is going over the reason for the videos in the first place was really just about, hey, let's look at some other avenues or potential ways that I can I found it to be a better way of journaling versus me just writing it out or typing it out. Just kind of that became cumbersome, and it was like, do I really want to read this at times? But for how videos, not only like if I'm looking for a quick access to, hey, I'm looking back at this trade that happened on this day. If that same ticker has popped up again today, okay, hey, I can pull that one up quick. Oh, I traded it here on this day. What was I thinking for that trade? Seeing that chart, blah, blah, blah. I can immediately find those things like that. And even just reflecting on specific days or just finding out everything that I was feeling that day of, okay, well, it was a short day that day. I forgot I had that on that day, and that's why I traded like that, blah, blah, blah. Just for many reasons like that. But yeah, that was really the first intention of why I started doing these videos, as just also kind of another way to establish more of a routine. And that's the thing that I wanted to talk about most, of how these videos have been a great asset in some ways, but also a little bit maybe of a hindrance and kind of just a subconscious limiter in other ways. How I always want to relate it back to my baseball career, of how I absolutely fell into this routine of hard work and grinding. And like anybody that ever met me would absolutely categorize me as a hard worker and getting after it, getting it done, and certainly a great baseball player to that effect, but not at the level I wanted to be. And I think I found myself still in this baseball career mindset that I'm talking about, of everything always just was for the praise and adoration of, oh, he's a great hard worker, or just the recognition that, hey, he puts in the work, so he's not successful right now, but maybe eventually down the line he could be, because he's putting in that hard work right now. And that's the crux that I always fell back to, and really limited myself in a sense, because it never really was about getting to whatever goal I had defined for myself, and going to that of, I never really did have a hard set goal of, I want to be doing this by this specific time, or it's just not going to happen. But more so, it just became, I did fall in love with the game and I loved playing it, but it was just more so about, because my body is physically here at the field, or my body is physically at the gym or doing these things, that automatically means that I'm going to get better. Where in reality, that is not the case whatsoever. And my mind constantly goes to that. Unfortunately, we have to hear all the stories of Kobe Bryant, of after he's passed, of these great workaholic stories that he's just got lined up continuously, but of how his obsession with it far outweighed his talent. I mean, his talent could have taken him to the NBA alone, and he could have a very great and nice, successful career, had whatever money he wanted, and been done with it that way. But that obsession and drive to be the best is what made him legendary, and even able to come into the talks with the same, likes of Michael Jordan, or the greatest of all times, to be even represented in that conversation. So in the same way, that's the same Mamba mentality, related to the Mamba mentality that I have to have in everything of, okay, who am I kidding really right now? What is my goal? That needs to be the clear intention first and foremost of, goals needed to be first off of just what I'm seeking right now. I need to be profitable. Like that's going to bleed into what my next line is here in my journal, but of outlining things in just the most basic and plain way that I can, to say, what are my actions doing to go to that? Am I being intentional with everything that I'm doing? And there's lots of little areas that I could say I'm not, and there's also, I could say on the same hand too, that there's lots of areas that I am doing that. And it's important to recognize both of those and not just get so caught up in, I'm such a loser. I watched 2 YouTube videos today. I could have been using that time to get better at trading, and blah, screwing myself over. versus like, oh, we made some great trades, and just the reflection on that and understanding both sides of the coin and pushing. That's this next point I'm going to make is going to bleed into the monthly goal that I'm setting for the next month of April as well, but pushing the things that work and eliminating the things that don't. But to get back to the little main point of this first idea, everything has got to be aligned with what that one main goal is, and keeping myself aligned to that, and not just writing these kind of blurred lines that I can find myself in, because it is very easy. In a sense, it is these very blurred lines of what trading is, because, say my goal is, okay, I want to have 8 figures by this time frame in my career. Well, am I going to hold myself accountable to now, if I don't get that, then I'm going to look at myself as a failure? No, if I end up with $9 million in the bank, am I going to look at myself as a failure? Absolutely not. Maybe just shy of what my goal was, but that's the blurred line of, I want to hold myself accountable to these goals. I want to set goals, but I also don't want to define my life by these goals. I know I am far greater than even what I could even conjure up for myself, or what I think I am, or especially what the world thinks of me. But then now forcing that perspective throughout everything of, okay, today, are you where you want to be? And for my answer to that would be no, because I'm not profitable. Like, for this next goal that I want to achieve, I want to be profitable. But then when I get to that point of when it finally becomes profitable, and even to say on that too, well, if I make a trade tomorrow or on Monday, obviously, if I make a trade on Monday and then I make $10, hey, I'm a profitable trader. You met your goal. Well, it's not really the goal. I got to fine tune and specify that, I actually want to produce money like every single day. If I could do it, that's awesome, sweet. There's always fine tuning elements on that, but just being so nitpicky, there's elements and times to be nitpicky, but there's also times to be broad and understanding of the overall perspective. So it's just a continual washing away of the sand and letting the gold actually come to the fruitful bearing process that is this trading career. And yeah, getting very broad already with this journal notes, but that's the reason for all of this, is using this avenue of the monthly trading recap that I don't necessarily get to do a lot with those daily trading recaps, of being just kind of more focused on the individual trades, but looking at everything from a whole to say, okay, are we kind of on the right track, and just taking a little step back to say, like, what processes are deteriorating us, and just using a totally unbiased and clean perspective to say, yeah, those processes are not helping us. And if you're still truly saying, that's the biggest part of it, is if you're still truly saying that your goal is this, then that thing specifically is not matching to that. You either need to eliminate it or just readjust your goal. So getting to those points more often to say, it almost needs to become a daily thing of, I do put those rules, I read my rules every single day and have those set in before I can even touch anything trading wise, but using even more so the goal oriented mindset and just the overall perspective to say, are we being intentional with what we're doing? It's not enough to say, okay, what can we do today to make money, right? Not every single day we're going to make money. And that doesn't make me a good trader by making my goal to be making money every single day, because that's near impossible. That is going to be impossible. I'm going to say it for the type of trading career and length of career that I want to have. To be making money every single day is impossible. So, okay, now that we know that fact that we're not going to make money every single day, what can we do to have more winning trades in total, more profit than loss? Not just even winning trades, but more profit than loss. And that, what I just kind of fibbed on there, of the more winning trades than losing trades, that's what the lie I believed in, but the trap that I kind of fell into, that I'll also get into another point with my futures thing of kind of going all over the place. I'm scatterbrained, but of just where my mind's flowing at the time of, it's not so much about what's the first thing that comes to your brain and what looks good. This is going to wrap into another point as well. I think I fall into the trap a lot of times of looking at a chart and saying, yeah, well, it's pre-market and gosh, it doesn't look so great so much in like terms of how the candles are printing. Great example of this would be IGMS on the first day, that I just completely wrote that thing off immediately as soon as I saw it, because I just didn't like how that pre-market action was moving, how those candles were coming about. I think it was decent enough dollar volume, but just of like the news catalyst that was out on it, of they had the offering and it started going up because of that. It was just a lot of factors that immediately threw me off to say, whatever my gut intuition or first thought was thinking, it just did not want any part of it whatsoever. And then sure enough to see that thing just absolutely rip, 100%, whatever it went that first day, absolutely insane that Chris 100% nailed. Those are little things and areas that make me come back to that and adjust to say, wow, my bias absolutely canceled me out from having a great, not only learning opportunity, but great avenue of potential trade to be looking for in the future. So it's in that terminology of, it doesn't matter what it looks like or what somebody else thinks about it. If you're making money, that's the only thing that matters. Me and Chris put so much on Jackaroo of kind of like, if he probably took a test of just like a common sense test, or like, I want to say even an IQ test, like not to judge or anything against Jackaroo. He is far more clout and respect than I could probably ever gain. But of like, if he probably took an IQ test, I would probably guess that it's going to be on the low side of just for what his brain is or whatever he's doing, the type of trades that he's taking, or for some of his entries and exits that we were seeing during that peak of the 2020, and even for what he was in right now, getting short like $3 million worth of Tesla. Yeah, I can see that trade, but man, that is some size there for that type of conviction. With regardless, whatever of, it doesn't matter what I think about it. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter what the chart could look like to you, to me, of like the same thing of how I looked at IGMS of, oh, that's just a non-me trade. I just don't want any part of it. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't matter if it looks good. It doesn't matter. GameStop, let's use this example of GameStop. It doesn't matter what the company is. All that matters is price. And if you're making money on it, then who can deny you that that's everybody's goal? That's why we show up to this. You've just achieved that goal. And I think another great example from my baseball mind is Hunter Pence. Hunter Pence, a baseball player. I think he's retired now, actually retired. Used to play for the Giants, Blue Jays, whatever. Just the ugliest swing on the planet. Just the weirdest, most awkward. Him warming up before he went to the plate, too, was just this awkward. Like, that's all you can say about it. It's just weird all the way through and through. And how many times hitting coaches throughout his minor league career and even in the major league career, I can imagine too, just everybody critiquing him and saying, you are crazy. Why are you swinging like this? Do it this way. You need to be doing it this way. It doesn't look good. It doesn't freaking matter. That's why he was playing in the MLB for so long, because he got the job done. You know, to relate it to the Moneyball quote from Billy Beane of, he can look the absolute worst. He can go party on the weekends. He can be the worst influence, whatever, off the field, blah, 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 all these different factors. But he gets on base. Like, he gets the job. What are we looking to achieve? Is he doing it or not? It doesn't matter in what manner that he gets there. If he's with the parameters that you have set, if the job is getting done, then who's complaining? Why are you complaining the way you do it? I can always go back to my great, infamous coach, Coach Dave, over at CG there, of just that is his entire paradigm. It's not his coaching mindset that has to be done for each of his players that go through there. It's whatever works. He comes with the parameter set of, I need you to do this. This is professional, or this is major league level. We can set the ideals for whatever metrics we're looking for whether it's a throwdown, whether it's receiving, whatever we want to see. We have those predefined parameters. I need you to be able to do this. Can you do it with however funky way you're doing it now? Good, we're done. We don't need to have any more discussion. You don't need to change just because the way you look doesn't make me comfortable, so then it's just weird. No, if you're doing what we ask of you, who are we to try to change you in the way you're doing it? You're doing exactly what we ask of you, and that's entirely you. But the moment that it becomes different, the moment that if you just have this way and you want to think you do it your way, the moment that starts to fail and you realize, oh, that's really not working out, that's the moment when we can say, even though it looks pristine, even though your way may look the greatest or the most beautiful, sexy, gorgeous, or just athletic, fluid movement, doesn't matter. You're not getting the job done. So in the same way with trading, I think I view that the same way a lot in my trading, of just even looking at a chart to start to try and trade for the day. It's not the most volume coming in on the day. The candles aren't printing so beautifully. It's a lot of time between candles. I think I do that a lot with OTCs as well. It didn't even trade 1,000 trades on the day, and it grows it. Or even looking at people who talk about they made a profit on an OTC ticker on the day. It's like, that thing traded 70 trades on the day. What are you even talking about? That's not a repeatable trade. You can't do that with big size, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is, they made money. And sometimes they make big money, and I can criticize it and say, oh, that's just, yeah, you can't do that repeatedly. You can't do it sustainably, blah, blah, blah. Put all these things on it. But at the end of the day, they made money. And if, of course, that from the overall global time perspective of the Warren Buffett sitting on his king of the castle throne, he can say, yeah, but you can't sustain that. You have to have this career over 50 years. That's what makes you a good trader. But I mean, that's his mindset as well, of looking at a good trader as somebody who can do it repeatedly, consistently over 50 years versus, I mean, what are we trying to do every day? If I take a loss on the day and somebody else takes a win, in one perspective, that person was a better trader. That person accomplished what both of our goals were for the day. We're both here to try to make money. They made money. I didn't. And that's the mentality that I carried coming into my trading career at the very start. It kind of destroyed me and just got me so rough of course, seeing everybody on Twitter. Everybody on Twitter is always a winner, right? And they're posting these huge, awesome, insane trades, and I'm just like nowhere even near close to that type of prestige or, P&L on a day. But that's just such a crux, too, of trying to compare yourself to anybody else and using that as actual truth, because most of the times it's not anywhere near that whatsoever. But just of understanding that it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter if it's pretty. It doesn't matter if it's specifically this amount of dollar volume and this amount of percentage move and this amount of parameters or whatever you're trying to define it as, this playbook trade. If it makes money, then that's the goal achieved. If it makes money for you, that's the goal achieved. Even if it's just the weirdest, craziest looking, like everybody and their grandma looks at that chart after you make that trade and go, how the heck did that happen? Or how the heck did you luck out with that? Or just even first off, how the heck did it happen in the stock market? How many times that's happened for me looking at other people's things as well. But it doesn't matter. This isn't a beauty contest. This isn't I'm coming to each market day to feel good about how I'm trading it, or just for other people to think that I'm taking good trades. It's not what it's about. It's about making freaking money. And that's the thing that I've lost a lot. Especially, and I relate it back to that baseball career again, of how I think I fell into that at times. And I think I do that a lot with everything of, I don't really make it about what would I like to go after today or what's my actual goal, but of, hey, do I, look good doing this in a sense? Like, not like, oh, am I handsome? Do I look good? But is my form good as I'm going down the swimming lap? Or am I actually trying to increase my cardiovascular respiration? Am I actually trying to increase my fitness? Or am I just trying to, what's my intention? Getting to that fundamental basis root question in all of this of, what are we actually trying to achieve here today? So that was kind of far expanded and going way off of the little plan that I had here for this journal on the day. But yeah, I think covering a lot of points that I absolutely want to mention that are very key and fundamental for me truly developing as a trader in that actual goal of, I want to be profitable. So let's figure out how to be profitable. I think we'll get into monthly goal for this month was the same one as February, of putting in that work necessary to succeed. Yeah, same as February. But now for April, as we're getting into the first of the month here and the second of, really I want to shift that mindset to, I need to be pushing harder on what works and eliminating what doesn't. Getting down to the nitty gritty, defining, is this playbook trade played out over however many trades? Is it profitable or is it not profitable? Doesn't matter how it looks. Don't hold any bias or charisma on, well, it's just a very nice looking trade, or it worked hot in the 2020 market, but it's just because we haven't had any huge dollar volume or crazy runs like that. That's why that's trade not working. Well, then you need to adjust, right? We need to be making money. We're showing up every single day to try to make money. I say all of that with a lot of leniency and just so many blurred lines. It is not black and white by any means. The P&L certainly is black and white by a lot of means, but the process to get there, of course, is black and white. So it's lots of underlying meanings on a lot of things I'm saying, and just understood inferences in all of it. But I'll just include that little reference there. Update on the futures that I'll get into now. Still doing futures every single day, and I still think that there's a lot more opportunity on the session backtested strategy that I'm doing with that collected data, and also that 930 strategy of looking for 2 points above the open. I mean, just very rudimentary, basic, automated trades through NinjaTrader that, as I want to allude to, and I think I've mentioned in a few daily trading recaps as well, that the tough part with those is is when they should stop working. They're working now, and I'm trying to exploit it as best I can, but if and when they should stop working, the tough part is I'm going to have to sustain quite a few losses before I ever realize or make that switch or transition to say, okay, yeah, these aren't working anymore. I mean, that's the basis of everything. They work until they don't. But the difference between this automated strategy and trading, say, a small cap setup or an OTC setup, like an OTC panic dip buy, awesome, beautiful playbook trade. But you stop trading those, your tell to stop trading those is when they stop happening, right? That's a market-induced tell for you to say, like, they're just not happening anymore, especially nowhere near repeatably as they did in 2020. Okay, so that's my line to say that I shouldn't trade those, is because they're not even happening. There's no opportunity to even try to play in those versus this daily SPY trade or this daily S&P 500 trade, this daily 930 trade. The S&P 500 is always going to open, and the S&P 500 is always going to have a 930. So then that tough line of, okay, does the exit strategy of knowing when potentially I have to stop using this strategy, does that then have to factor into my back testing of would it actually really be profitable for the sustained losses that I could potentially take of it not working out repeatably and then forcing me out because that hit rate percentage and the loss averages that I would have to take on the non-hit rates, that those end up working out against me? Does that make the overall trade net negative? I don't know, but that's what I'm here to test, and that's why I'm going through these processes of just understanding and exposing myself to more of that, so that becomes more apparent and self-aware for myself for future opportunities similar to that. There is this, my next point here. There's this little lingering voice in my head that I got this 10K in cash sitting around that I need to be adding that back to my shorting account to be able to short again, and especially add a little bit more back to that futures account, because I have been able to size down appropriately with this futures trade of understanding in the very beginning that I was so gung-ho about it that, oh, this is a huge hit rate. I need to be throwing all the cash that I have on this specific one trade right now. It's stupid for me not to. And that's what hit me pretty hard with some big losses of understanding that, yeah, the net profit of this trade over, say, 100 trades works out great. But if you're trying to just upload it on the front with all of your account, any unrealized P&L is just going to absolutely destroy you. And that hit me in the face pretty quick. And yeah, stupidly on whatever day that was that we had a little sell-off right at the open and then ended up pulling back a perfect V to hit my profit target precisely. Stop me out for $1,600 loss on the day. And that would have, had that trade worked out, I would have had $1,000 positive net month. Like those little tiny things like that are just can absolutely change a month, change an entire week for sure, but it just, those little unfortunate circumstances, and that's why backtesting is so far different than the real life, because there's real life circumstances, there's every single variable you can imagine. It's not just this perfect vacuum that is backtesting, but it is real life. So factoring that in again too, on top of potential automated strategies to play in the future of, it is a far different world. Previous history doesn't determine real-time or future performance, something along those lines. But yeah, recognizing that, and then just opening myself up to realize that, gosh, it is this. I'm not going to become a millionaire by trading $1,000 size each and every time I take a trade. I mean, it needs to be at some point stepping up. And, you know, I was always critiquing and criticizing some videos. One video I watched recently of a guy's like, yeah, I pretty much literally started with nothing and I grew this account all the way to $1 million, but I started with 25,000. That's all I had to my name. That's 25,000. And I'm like, yeah, I have that, but in other avenues, and just kind of, I don't really want to cramp on that of where I have it right now, but of just like, I only had 25,000. I'm sitting here taking $500 trades. Like, what are you talking about? You only had 25,000. But that is the market, right? That is everything of the same trades that we're taking. If I take a 10% nice little opportunity on whatever trade I take, that same trade, if I take $1,000 size on it versus take a $50,000 size on it, are far too different outcomes. Too far different outcomes. Right? I mean, that's just everything. And that's why, like, the goal is just to get a big sum of money first off, so we don't have to just continue doing this, because then that becomes just so much easier, not only in just life in general, but of even trading itself. It doesn't have to be trying to force 50% out of a move on a chart in one day, just so we can get at least a good enough compared to a 9-to-5 relative job type of P&L on the day, versus taking a $50,000 position size on one trade. I can take it for 5%, right? That's $2,500 as a winner. Beauty, easy. That is like day trading in itself. That is the type of profitability that we're after, right? And not forcing more out of it than is there. It's just very broad, general perspective, or just assumptions on that specific setup. But yeah, that is, I mean, at some point it's got to be, okay, we got to use a bigger account size, but it's got to be, we've got to prove that profitability first and the understanding of who I am as a trader. And I think I'll go ahead and lead that into the next note that I have of, it is more about that visualization. It is more about understanding. It's not about being pretty. It's not about what I think looks like a good trade. What is going to make money? It doesn't matter where it comes from. It doesn't matter if it's NFTs. It doesn't matter whatever modality I do. It doesn't have to be this pretty, perfect, whatever imagination that I can only limit myself to that it has to be. It is whatever makes money. And the quicker that I can move myself to that and just remove all of the bias and remove all of the old grandpa-ness of, well, back in my day, we had to do it this way. And because it's not doing it, like, adjust with the times. Like, what are they saying? Show me the money. Where is it? And let's go follow it. Let's produce, because that is what we're after, right? And the more I try to limit myself that way by still succumbing to the old ways or just how Grandpappy taught me, like I related back to baseball again, of how it's just America's pastime and baseball is meant to be played this way, and people showboating and pimping home runs is just terrible and bad for the game, and you need to bunt the guy around to get him to score and blah, 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 like all these rituals. Screw that. I'm hitting dingers, right? Is the aim of the game to score runs? Look at me. I'm scoring more runs by hitting dingers than you are by doing your little bunt and running to the plate and then wiping off your hands. Yay. I mean, breaking it down to that simplicity again. But gosh, yeah, it is just a continual evolution of myself and self-evaluation in that of, what are our goals? Are we still aligning to those same goals? Do we still agree with those goals? First off, okay, if we don't, how can we align ourselves again, and how can we refine that more? Now on the backside of that of, wow, or actually not kind of following along what that specific goal was. I still believe in that goal, but you know what, these ideas and these processes that I'm going through really don't match with that. So let's find something else. Let's eliminate those and let's either test something new, see if that works. If it doesn't stick at all, let's move on to another thing. That is just the continual evolution. Self-evaluation, just survival of the fittest, right? Of continuing to cycle through, hey, what works, what sticks? It's not going to stick forever, but sure enough, we're going to exploit the crap out of it while it does. So using that line and just entire perspective to try and re-visualize how I approach each and every single trade. So I think that's really all I wanted to cover, coming just short of 30 minutes here on the recap of going over a lot of just broad spectrum stuff of where I'm at in the trading career. All of the myopic, just basic trade stuff is in those daily trading recaps and very easily accessible for me as I'm referencing these to just go review those and the nitty-gritty specifics on, this specific trade, we're doing something wrong, blah, 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 all those different metrics there. But just as an overall glimpse view for this month of March, I think has just been a lot of growth and more stepping into that realization to not let myself fall into that trap that I fell into pretty hard with baseball, of how it just, baseball is fun, right? That's what it's supposed to be. And I want trading to be the same way for myself too. I use the example of like this kids playing soccer in the streets of Rio de Janeiro, of Brazil. Like they're playing with bottle caps, right? They couldn't be having more fun than any other person in the entire world. But and somebody else would look at that and say, oh, those poor children, they're playing in those filthy streets with just bottle caps. Like somebody should buy them some shoes or an actual soccer ball. They should be playing on an actual field. No, like it's all perspective, right? They are just having an absolute blast, and that's what it should be. And their entire being is so free because of that perspective. They're not just so limited and bogged down in, I don't have 3 private jets yet. Like this is just such a tragedy. My closest buddies who I've known for years, they've already got like 10 private jets and they've got 3 mansions already. This is just stupid. My life is a ruin. Like, I don't have these things. It's just what a wasteful perspective. And realigning myself with the truth of what a blessing it is to be in front of this computer every day as a job where people are actually starving in the streets. And let's talk about people in Ukraine, right, of just the situation going on over there. Of realigning myself with that perspective and coming with a heart of gratitude and just continually looking to push and pursue where is the opportunity there, removing the bias from my own eyes and trying to make it about me, because it's not. I mean, we're here to make money, and the market doesn't care who I am, if I'm even involved in the market at all, what it gives me, what it takes away from me, does not care whatsoever. And that's the way I have to approach it, in the same light of it's not personal. It's just about making money. So with that, I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.